best style. He might be past his best because with his style he's hard-working and he's probably put on a few miles right now. And this fight it might just be a bit too much for him. Do you see
I don't know. I get the debate, but I think Josh Warrington looks very fresh. I mean, you only really know when they get in there. I think you're only as good as your last fight. And I actually thought he boxed well against Lopez. I thought after a while, once he got control of the fight, I thought he could have edged the fight. And we all know how good Lopez is. So I think when you look at the guys' careers, the best wins from Warrington probably come, a couple of years back by Frampton, by Selby, by Kiko Martinez, maybe Kid Galahad. But Josh's wins have come more recently. Kanzu, Michael Conlon, Maurizio Lara. And both guys are full of confidence, but I think it's a pure 50-50 fight.
After this fight, is Lee staying in this division? He's talked about possibly moving up. We know that he's sort of, struggles to make weight at times. Do you feel like this is going to be his last fight at this weight?
Possibly. I mean, look, the winner has to fight Komatov, which, quite frankly, I don't see him doing because just not a lot of money in that fight. I think the winner's going to turn around and say, give me the biggest fight you can. That probably comes in the form of a Joe Cordina fight for a two-division world championship. But at the same time, we'll see. I think both guys are focused. Although Lee Wood is tight at the weight, Josh Warrington's been a career featherweight as well. So it's a lot of weight making, and I think both guys look healthy at this stage and will be ready on the scales tomorrow.
Just want to quickly ask you a question outside this fight. Tyson Fury and Usyk's been announced. Obviously, the date's going to get announced. They're saying after the fight against Ngannou. Does that put your plans off for December 23rd? We know AJ might have been fighting in December. Eubank.
Look, if we get the Eubank fight made, we will go December 23rd because we will have to announce that in the next 2 weeks.
So you'd go up ahead with them?
We would really have to. I mean, I don't know whether they're going to go December 23rd. Maybe there's some conversations with them before we announce our fight, but that is our date. And whilst the other fight is not announced, there's a good chance we'll go straight up and announce. But we'll have to see. I mean, obviously, we don't want to go on the same night. It doesn't make sense for either fight, but we'll see.
Eddie, 10 years today. Anthony Joshua made his pro debut. Just your recollections of your time working together.
I can't believe it's been 10 years. Probably feels like about 3 or 4. I think we all owe AJ, honestly, like us as a business, even as a family, you guys, I don't think we'd all be here in the same capacity without him. I think, heavy is the head that wears the crown. I think he's had a massive amount of pressure and responsibility on him over that period. And let's be honest, like, when has he ever really behaved in a way that's been over controversial or disrespected the sport or disrespected the public? He's always given us the best fights. He's opened up stadium fights. He's given his time to the community, to kids. He's got everybody interested in the sport, from nans and granddads to kids and aunts and uncles and women and men. And, everybody should be thanking him for his service for the sport. And I truly believe he has a couple of huge nights left and maybe even the biggest moments of his career. And he sits now, I guess, as a mature heavyweight. For a long time he was like a raw heavyweight. Now he's a mature heavyweight that has his eyes set on some big fights.
I'm sure you don't want to upset any of your fighters, but when you reflect on everybody you've worked with, is he the best signing you've made?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've both worked so well together. Right? As a fighter, you're only as good as the path that's set out for you, but as a promoter, you're only as good as the talent that you promote. And he was the one. I remember going up to Sheffield many years ago and seeing him just before he went to the World Championships. Just met him. And he went to the World Champs and won silver, like out of nowhere. And he should have really won gold in that World Champs. Then he went in the Olympics and I was like, almost hope he doesn't win gold because I think I've got him here. I think I'm going to sign him. But if he wins gold, the checkbooks are coming out, and that's what happened. And I'll always be thankful for him choosing me and choosing us. And we've had an unbelievable journey together, and I can't believe it's been 10 years. But certainly changed my life, like I said, my life, my family's life, the company's life. And I think together we've helped him change his as well.
So your comments in the Matchroom interview that you're still hopeful of trying to make that Deontay Wilder fight, is that the front runner for you currently still? Or?
Yeah, whether that's next, because if it is next, he could go in December. But that fight, in my opinion, will 100% happen in the first half of next year, maybe even in the first quarter. Like, I can't tell you any more than I'm talking to Shelley Finkel and we've made it crystal clear, as they have to us, we want this fight. Like, we're talking about Vegas, we're talking about Wembley, and we appreciate the money might not be completely the same as what we've been offered by Saudi Arabia, but and money's always important, but I think both guys actually genuinely want the fight. And when you get fights like Fury Usyk made, it does give everybody just a little nudge to say, let's make ours now. And there's a definite feeling from their team and ours to get that fight over the line.
You've got one more, sorry. You've got 2 dates obviously in December booked already. There's talk of December 2nd going in, December 23rd, Eubank, Benn, if that one was to go ahead. Where does AJ fit into all of this? If it's not Wilder, where do you put him in December?
We'll see. I mean, it could go on December 23, maybe even as well. You know, December 2nd is a fantastic card that we're announcing on Saturday night for Britain. And 23rd is our date for Benn Eubank. And I truly believe that fight will get made for that date.
It's been described as ticking over, but we found out recently that AJ's training at Ben Davison's gym. Is there any potential in maybe changing trainers again?
No.
And what do you make of that?
No, definitely ticking over. I mean, AJ respects Ben Davison. They talk quite a lot. I just feel like with the uncertainty of knowing about the December date, we just don't know whether he's going to fight in December. And if he is going to fight, he didn't want to be sitting around for 2 or 3 weeks just not boxing. So he's gone into Ben's gym, working with him, and obviously they've got a great team of fighters there, some of which he knows as well. Just sharpening the tools before he returns to Derek James.
With Wilder potentially first quarter of the December fight, could you give us a list of names? Obviously, it's not going to be a big name. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be someone from the top 15. I honestly haven't been in negotiations with any fighters. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think ticking over is a bit harsh because they're all dangerous fights. But it would certainly be a smaller fight than Wilder. But we've got to decide whether we run out in December or not.
Oscar De La Hoya came out yesterday and said all the promoters should work together. Can you see a scenario, maybe Al Heyman coming to the zone and you guys all maybe working together? Could that potentially happen?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, the zone is a global platform and you know, they've got the ability to bring other fights to the platform. We have a long-term deal with them. Golden Boy, I don't know how long their deal is with them, but you know, I'm sure if you're a promotional outfit that doesn't have a broadcaster right now, which the rumours of PBC suggest, you're going to be talking to various different outlets, and maybe DAZN bid for the PBC rights, maybe Amazon do, maybe Fox come back. I have no idea, but they need to find a home, and a promoter without a TV home is not really a player, but they have. You know, good brand, good roster of fighters. I'm sure they'll find something.
Last question. You said last week Boatsy Aziz, you heard, was off. But obviously, they did a media event yesterday. Looks like it's still on. Why did you say that? And where did
Just
you
what I heard. That's what. But as I said in the same breath, there's so much bollocks out there. You never know what to believe. But that was obviously not true. You know, I heard that they've been struggling on the tickets for that. But it's tough at the moment. It's definitely tough in London. Because you're coming off the back of AJ, you know, you also had Joe Joyce against Zhang, which didn't sell amazingly well, but still sold okay. Then you had Jordan Thompson last week, which was okay, but 2 guys that were very little known, really, to the wider scale fans. And then you go into Boatsy against Aziz. And, you know, we did Boatsy against Richards, which I feel was maybe bigger, but certainly the same size. And it ain't easy. So, you know, it's going to be an expensive night.
Last one. What did you make of Tony Bellew's comments about Joe Joyce being domestic level and the fact that Fabio Wardley would be in now?
Yeah, I don't know about domestic level. I mean, I don't think Joe Joyce is domestic level, but there are domestic fighters that can beat him that are domestic level. I think Fabio Wardley is a guy with speed and power that would cause Joe Joyce a lot of problems, but then if the fight went late, it's going to cause Fabio Wardley problems. It really comes down to the punch resistance of a fighter that's built his career on being tough and being able to absorb punishment. That's never a great look, and when that goes, it changes the levels that you can compete at. So I get what he says, and I think there are domestic fighters that could beat Joe Joyce, but they haven't proved to be on the level of Joe Joyce, but he's not the same fighter, in my opinion.
Eddie, Josh Warrington's looking great. I've seen odds saying that he's 3-1 against. Do you think that's slightly disrespectful towards
Yeah, I think it's a pure 50-50 fight. I really do. You know, I think I understand at the same time Lee Wood's run would make him favourite, but when you look at what Josh has achieved, after the Lopez fight, I thought, you know, after the bad start, I thought he did well in that fight against arguably the number 1 in the division. I think Lee Wood is, but you know, I think Lee Wood, given his run of form, is the small favourite, but I think up for grabs from both.
Do you think that's the advantage that Lee Wood has been active more recent? Obviously, Warrington's been out for 10 months, and in that time, you know, your mindset can start to go. Like you were saying, he's always great physically, but mentally it can start to go. So do you think Wood does have that advantage?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it both ways. You know, the activity of Lee Wood, you know, helping him keep his weight down, but then the freshness of Josh Warrington. Had a nice break, come back. You know, I don't know at this stage in your career whether you need to be super active or just fight twice a year, but, you know, Lee Wood has momentum, but Josh Warrington looks supremely confident.
I spoke to you after the AJ fight and you said that plan A was to get the AJ Wilder fight going. There was no plan B, there was no plan C. That's now not going ahead, so what is plan B?
I think it might go ahead. I mean, I think every day we speak, we realise there's a real desire from both to get it made. And now we're looking at other options, and Vegas and Wembley, looking at what money can be generated for those nights. And whilst we appreciate it might not sit directly alongside the offer from Saudi Arabia, we still want the fight. Wilder wants the fight. I think it's a fight that's arguably bigger even than Fury against Usyk. So we're under pressure to make that fight. We want to, and I think it will get made.
Do you think the Fury-Usyk fight is more likely to happen than the AJ Wilder fight?
Yeah, I think apparently it's signed. So at that point, it's definitely more likely to happen than Wilder against Joshua. But at the same time, we know the history. Anything could happen. You don't know what to believe. But I hope it does happen.
Finally, from me, the return of Conor Benn has had mixed reactions in the boxing world. What do you make of it?
I thought it was a good performance against a tough opponent. Got the cobwebs off. Full steam ahead for December, and he's going to be in a massive fight in December.
Eddie, Cameron Vyong making his debut, a young man full of confidence. How do you think he's going to do this week?
Yeah, I think he's a great fighter. I mean, Sam Jones does my nutting, but he's very passionate about his fighters, and he's a big believer in Cameron Vyong. I mean, we know he was a fantastic amateur, but what we're seeing from him in the pro gym, sparring with Cattrall and the like, everyone tells me he's a very special talent. So tune in on Saturday for the start of the journey.
If he does well on Saturday, do you think he's going to be one of these fighters that gets fast-tracked?
I think, fast-tracking a fighter is always dependent on the performances. And you have to analyse that performance and that level after every fight. If you breeze through someone, you just want to step up the level. And if you continue to do that, you move faster. Once you have a tough fight in your second, third, fourth fight, or a little bit tougher, you just say, OK, put the brakes on. But he looks to me like a superstar. And I think Saturday, I'll be able to tell. I don't sound like a Houdini, but I will be able to look at him on Saturday and see if this is a kid that can be fast-tracked. But ultimately, that's a decision that we made by Jamie Moore and Sam Jones. And
of course, Terry Harper, she's going for another world title. Very, very tough fight ahead of her.
I think a really tough fight. I think almost a 50-50, Obviously, Brackhouse has the size, she has the experience, but Terry has the speed, she has the freshness. But I think it's going to be a very tough night's work.
And then going on to Warrington Wood, where do you think the loser goes in this? Because there's still some big fights to be made.
I think it depends. If you move up in weight, you go and have a big fight internationally. It depends what you want. Depends how you lose. Do you know what I mean? So I think ultimately we'll know on Saturday in the early hours what's next for both guys. And, I think it's going to be a classic that could go either way.
Brilliant. Thank you, Eddie.
Eddie, with all the serious boxing questions out of the way, there's a fight next week with the influence of boxing. I just want to know, what fight are you most looking forward to, and will you be watching it on your couch at home, or are you going to turn up, matter of fact?
I mean, my kids want to go, right? And I've got one weekend off. It's actually my daughter's birthday next week, so I'm like, I just mentioned it to her, like, just wanted to get the reaction, and it was like, what? What, we can go to that fight? I'm like, oh my God. So I might be bullied into it, but I've got to say, for me, that world is not a world that I can almost operate in with a clean heart. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I can do what I want and what makes me happy. If this was 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, I would have been all over this fight like a rat up a drain pipe, right? But it doesn't mean that I can't admire it, respect it and understand it. And I think what Mams Taylor and Callis Allen have done, and DAZN with Misfits, has been revolutionary. And I think although it is YouTube boxing, it's competitive, and I like the way they're structuring their cards. I mean, if you actually look at that show next week, like KSI against Tommy Fury, whatever way you want to look at it, it's an intriguing fight. Dylan Dennis against Logan Paul, if this fight happens, the build-up has been unbelievable. And even Slim against Salt Pappy, right? I mean, who can forget that one? But it's just a really good card. So, and the numbers, listen, don't forget, I work for DAZN. So anything that benefits DAZN, they could knock in 1 million subscribers next week, which is great for us, it's great for boxing. Now, people say, oh, they won't watch boxing. Well, that's DAZN's job from there, to interact with those subscribers, to make them watch boxing, right? So I think it's good all round. We just got to remember, you got boxing and you got Misfits or YouTube boxing. Totally different, totally separate thing. But that card is at least a little bit closer to boxing. The tag team stuff and the girls, and like, this feels a little bit more like a real night of boxing. and I'll definitely be tuned in, if not in attendance.
Eddie, what do you think of Canelo coming back against Jamel Charlo?
I thought he looked good. I thought I knew he'd come back with a little bit more vengeance. I thought Charlo was just like, I don't know. It's like even when Golovkin fought Canelo, he never in the third fight. It's like, I don't know. Are you getting paid too much money? Have you got too much money? Because the special ones that have got too much money still stick it on the line. Canelo, AJ, but it almost looked like Charlo was like, I'm getting, I don't know what he got, 8 million, 10 million. And I was like, okay, it's almost like, let's not hurt each other in here tonight. I'm just going to get our money. And it's like, all the talk about legacy, sticking it online. A lot of fighters go, I'd rather get knocked out, carried out, than lose on points. But actually, how many fight like that? You got 2 of them fighting like that on Saturday. So, but really disappointing fight, awful.
Seeing Jamel jump up 2 weight classes and not really make a dent in Canelo, does that kind of put a pin in that whole Crawford versus Canelo talk?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, Crawford would have much more desire, but there's weight classes for a reason, and we always forget that in boxing. I've been guilty in the past of having a fighter step up a couple of divisions. Oh, he struggles at that weight, he'll be fine up at that weight. But in the changing room, you see a guy in Charlo that actually looked chubby and like out of shape, and it was just the wrong weight class.
Just final question from me. Devin Haney, Regis Prograis finally confirmed. What sort of deal is that with Devin Haney? Is it just one fight?
One fight with matching rights for the future as well. So look, you know, he promised me he'd be back after he won the Undisputed, and he's done that. So our job to give him the best fights, but he's got his hands full with Regis Prograis, who's fully confident.
Eddie, where does Canelo go from here? Who do you want to see?
He can fight. You know, I think the plan would have been to do Charlo and then have a really competitive fight and then fight the brother. But now that's dead because the fight was. You know, so Benavidez, I think, is the fight, but I don't think they'll do that fight till next year. So it's going to be interesting to see who they choose for September.
What about Bivol, the rematch with Bivol? Is that still on the cards?
We'd love to make it, but whether they'll do it or not is another question. Cheers, boys.
Thank you, Eddie.